Okay, this is pretty easy, this first part here. Let's factor the expression. Now what you have here is two parentheses with multipliers outside. You're not going to multiply. You don't distribute. You leave it so it's not distributed. Here's how you're going to set up these problems. You're going to make a space with a parentheses, but in that space you put a teeny parentheses. Little, big. Now in the middle you have a minus, you're going to make it plus, negative. Now what you're going to do is separate this into two different terms, okay? There's multiplication dots there, but don't multiply them. So what common factor is in each circle? Well, that would be a parentheses of x plus 2. So the parentheses x plus 2, parentheses x plus 2, I factor out here in the little parentheses I put x plus 2. Now that's out, okay? The expression x plus 2 is out. Cross them off. And in the big parentheses, you now have a new expression with x to the second and negative 16. So you put x second minus 16. Now, the x plus 2, x doesn't have a second power, so we just bring that down here. This is where I'm going to put the answer. But the x squared minus 16, because x is to the second, I need to see if I can do a possible DOPS out of that, difference of perfect squares. So x to the second is x times x. 16 is 4 times 4. And there's a minus, so that's definitely a DOPS. So this goes down into x plus 4, x minus 4. So I'm not going to write this. Instead of writing that, I'm going to replace that with x plus 4, x minus 4. Both get parentheses around them. Okay, and there's your factors. Okay, next problem, 2x to the second power times x minus 4 plus 5 times x minus 4. So again, space parentheses, little parentheses in the space. So here's a plus sign. And the plus sign splits one term from the other. So in each term we have the parentheses of x minus 4, x minus 4, x minus 4. So we're going to put the parentheses x minus 4 outside. Now cross it out because I'm dividing by it. And then what I do now is combine 2x squared with 5 to make my second expression. Now this x here doesn't have a power, so we bring that down. And then here I analyze what's going on with the 2x squared plus 5, because x is still to the second power. We're checking that for a DOPS, okay? Difference of perfect squares. Now, yes, your x is to the second power, but if you look up at the board, 2 is not a perfect square. Neither is 5, and not only that, I have a plus sign, so that's definitely not a DOPS. So what we do is just carry down the parentheses 2x squared plus 5, because I can't rewrite that in factored form. And that sometimes this happens where you have a DOPS, sometimes this happens where it's not. Okay, next problem. 3x squared times x minus 6 plus 7 times x minus 6. So here's the plus. Again, big space parentheses. Just put a little teeny parentheses. Circle that and circle that. So in each one of these bubbles, what's the same in both? The x minus 6 is the same. So x minus 6, then go cross those out, and then that forms a new expression with 3x to the second plus 7. So where x is to the first power, okay, you just write that down. Remember, if x, but when I have x to the second, that is going to form a DOPS. Well, no, maybe it won't, okay, because that's x times x. This one won't, because 3 is not a perfect square, neither is 7, and there's a plus sign. There's supposed to be a minus sign when I do that. Doesn't work, so drop that down. That's your answer. Okay, next. This one's a little bit weird. Actually, it's going to be really quick and easy. So you're going to put a little parentheses. Here's your plus. Okay, so I've got x squared and 8. There's nothing the same about those. X plus 5 and x minus 7. Those are totally different parentheses, okay? So I cannot put a parentheses here. So what the answer is, it's prime. That means you can't do anything with it. It cannot be factored. So where this is going to come up here in the future. Okay, next up. Now if you got a minus, make it plus negative. Little, big, okay? Plus right there, so I circle in between the plus, and what do I have in each one? I've got x plus 3 and x plus 3. So I can factor that out. And I have x to the second and negative 5. So x to the second minus 5. Now the x plus 3 is in my answer. That can't be brought down because there's no second power on the x. But x squared minus 5, I need to check that to see if I have adopts. Difference of perfect squares. So x times x, and we got the minus, but then 5's not a perfect square. So we'll just carry that down. X to the second minus 5. Okay, next problem. So here I've got this and this, x plus 5, so the parentheses match, so that means I can factor out that entire parentheses. And then I have 4x to the second plus 3. It's like doing the GCF, but factoring out an entire parentheses. Sorry, that's 4x squared plus 3. Okay, so the x plus 5 is done. It's to the first power, the x's, so 4x squared plus 3. Dops. Now you got x to the second, x times x. Now since there's a 4 in front of it, 4 is a perfect square because that's 2 times 2. So 4x squared can be rewritten as 2x times 2x. But I don't have first off, there's a plus sign. Okay, if there's a plus sign, don't do it. And you just carry down the 4x squared plus 3. Okay, next problem. Okay, so again, times, you got a minus, make it plus negative. So the plus in the middle. So I got the parentheses x minus 2, so I'm factoring out x minus 2, and then I put 4x to the second with negative 9, put it as minus 9 if it's a negative. So x minus 2 is a linear factor because it has just a first power. 4x to the second minus 9, we check that for adopts. So x squared is x times x. It has a 4 in front of it, so 4 is a perfect square, so that'd be 2x times 2x. Then we got a minus, so we're good there, and 9 is a perfect square. That's 3 by 3. So I fill this out. 2x, 2x, 3, 3. Okay, so instead of dropping this down, you're writing 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. Okay, and the last one's a quick one. Plus negative. Okay, so the plus, so you got here and here. But the parentheses are different. That's a plus 4, that's a plus 7. So that is a prime expression. Okay, so I'm done. I write the word prime and I'm done. Okay, pause the video, work those problems. Okay, this problem here looks like a thick packet, but you got to understand it's not as bad as it looks. Okay. Now I'm going to graph this equation. Now it's a linear equation, means it makes a line. Here's how I know that, because the x is to the first power. Okay. So it makes it the highest power of x is to the first power. Now, we learned last year there are two basic forms of a linear equation. If the y and the x are on opposite sides and nothing is with the y, it's in slope-intercept form, okay? So, to graph it, I'm going to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope is whatever's in front of the x, -2. The y-intercept is the number not multiplied by the x, which is 3, but the y-intercept needs to be made a coordinate, 0, 3. So I graph the y-intercept. 0, 3 means I don't move forward or backwards, just up to 3. That's why it's called the y-intercept, because it crosses the y-axis. Then I get my other points using my slope. My slope is a -2, but I need the slope to be a fraction. So if I have an integer that's not a fraction, I put a 1 under it. Then from there, we go down 2, slopes rise over run. So negative rise, but I always move forward with the bottom. So I go down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. And I can keep doing that, okay? And that's that equation. Okay, now also, x is to the first power, so it's a linear equation. But the x and the y are on the same side together now. That means it's in what's called standard form. To graph standard form, we make two coordinates, and we put 0 in for x and 0 in for y. This is called the y-intercept here. This is called the x-intercept. So this is the point where it crosses the y line. This here is the point where it crosses the x line. Now how we find what goes in there, we write that out twice. So 2x plus 5y equals -10. 2x plus 5y equals -10. Now if x is 0, 2 times 0 would be 0. Okay, so we can get rid of 2x. So I have 5 times y equals -10. So I divide by 5, and -10 divided by 5 is -2. So that's your y-intercept, so you go down 2. Now right here, if y is 0, we replace the y with 0. 5 times 0 is 0. So I now have 2 times x equals -10, so I'll divide by 2. And -10 divided by 2 is -5, so the x-intercept's -5. So -5 on this line would be backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And we did that a lot last year, and I don't think we've done it yet this year. Okay, and there's a line. Now that line does have a slope, you just don't know what it is. So for example, my slope, like from here to here, I'm down 1 over 3 looks like. So -1/3 would be the slope. So it still has it. Now next one, I want you to graph these on the same plane, okay? X to the first means it's going to be a line, okay? Now the y and the x are back to opposite sides, so that's going to be slope-intercept form. Actually, they're both in slope-intercept form because here's the equals, the y and the x are on opposites. So slope, y-intercept. So the slope is -2/3 and the y-intercept 0 and then 6. So I go graph my y-intercept. That's on the y-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then from there I go down 2 over 3. Forward 3, not just over, because over could be that way too. We always want to go forward with the slope. Okay, and then the other one, you actually got the same slope, -2/3, and then my -4 is my y-intercept. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I use my slope to get the points that come afterwards, okay? Down 2, forward 3. Now, there's something weird about these lines. And that's the fact that when you look at them, they're never going to cross. They are parallel. So I'll put that. Means they're never going to cross. They are parallel because they have the same slope. Okay? So parallel lines have equal slopes. And that's what the assignment relates to. Now here's how the assignment works. Every problem is on one page. You have to find which graph is parallel to that equation. A, B, C, or D. Okay, so every problem's on one page. But you see, we got a little problem here. And slope, because again, it's a line because x is to the first power. Don't put that there, but that's why it's a line. Now, you got a little problem. This is in standard form. So you're like, so there's no slope. Yeah, there is a slope. You just don't see it. You have got to get the y by itself. So what you're going to do is dot the number in front of the y and circle it. Now, if that's a negative number, you're going to make it positive and make everything outside opposite. So -4, -10. Now, you need to get this -4x over here. That's your first step. So plus 4x, plus 4x. Now, I put it after the -10 because 10 doesn't have an x. 4 does. So it goes outside, they go side by side. So I line up my equals, and I have 8 times y. Now over here, I want to write the 4x first, and then the -10. That's the appropriate way to write that. Now, about that times 8, we divide by 8, and then divide these two by 8. Now, 4 divided by 8 is a decimal. When you're dealing with slopes, you don't want decimals, okay? So if you know 4 divided by 8 is a decimal, it's not 2. That's 8 divided by 4. So I'm going to go 4 ABC 8, so it reduces the fraction. So that's 1/2. So y is 1/2 x. And then that's a decimal, so I'm going to go -10 ABC 8, and that's -1 1/4. Now, the slope is 1/2. So I have to find a graph that has a slope of 1/2, okay? Means when does it go up 1 over 2? So I start here, up 1 over 2, no, I'm not on the line, so it's not A, okay? Here, up 1 over 2, I'm on the line, so B is the answer, okay? So B. I don't even need to look at C and D, I already have the answer. Okay, next problem. Again, that's in standard form, so I'm not able to see the slope, okay? It has a slope, I just need to get the y by itself. So y is multiplied by 3. It's positive, so I'm not going to change things to opposite. I'm going to start rolling. So my -2x, you're going to add 2x, and then put it after the 6. So now I line up my equals, and I write 3 times y, and over here, I'm going to switch the order so the 2x comes first, then the plus 6. Then I divide all these by 3. Now 2 divided by 3 is a decimal, okay? So I leave it, I'll go 2ABC3, but that's in lowest terms as a fraction, so it's 2/3 x. Because you can't, those have no common factor to divide by. The only row they're in together is 1. Then I divide 6 by 3, and that's not a decimal, that's 2. So the slope of that line is 2/3. Means every time it goes up 2, it goes 3 over. So I have to find the line that goes up 2 over 3. So if I go up 2 over 3, no, it's not A. Here, up 2 over 1, 2, 3, no, it's not B. If I go up 2 over 3, I'm on my line, so it's got to be C. Okay, next problem. Parallel lines have equal slopes, but I don't know what the slope of that is just by looking at it, because the y has to be isolated in the equation by itself. So it's multiplied by -4. Now we're going to make that a +4 because I don't want my bottom to be negative at the end. It will be if you don't make that a positive 4, because that's what you're going to divide by. So negative, negative. Then I'll add 8x and add it after the negative 16. So I line up my equals and I have 4 times y. Now put your 8x first, it's positive, and then your negative 16. Now divide by 4. Now 8 divided by 4 is not a decimal, so I'm actually going to divide 8 by 4 and it's 2. 2x and then minus 4. So my slope is the number in front of the x, which is 2, but technically it's 2 over 1. So I need to find the line that goes up 2 over 1 from the y-intercept. Up 2 over 1, not that one. Up 2 over 1, not that one. Up 2 over 1, C is the answer. I don't even need to worry about D. It doesn't work anyway. Okay. Last problem. So again, get the y by itself. It's multiplied by 5, positive 5, so I don't need to change it. And I add 3x behind the 30. So on this side I got 5 times y. Rewrite that so 3x comes first, followed by the plus 30. I divide all of these by 5. Then y will be by itself. So 3 divided by 5 is a decimal, so I go 3 ABC 5, because when I'm dealing with slopes, I want to see the fraction. That'd be 3/5 x. And 30 divided by 5 is 6. So my slope, I know, is now 3/5. So that's up 3, forward 5. So which line is up 3, forward 5? Oh, I think it's A. So A is the answer. I don't even need to look at the other ones.